Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4342-400-600. This is a 4x4, roughly 4x4, single-acting spring hinge, full mortise, residential weight, lube-bearing, steel-based, primed for painting. This is a single-acting spring hinge. That's the long and short of that. However, this hinge is specifically made for Pease manufactured doors and frames. And if you know you have a Pease, then you're on the right hinge. It would certainly be the LB4342. The 4x4 is a reference to the size, and the 600 simply means that it's prime coat, the finish. Let's dissect the part number properly. LB stands for lube bearing. That is a maintenance-free, concealed sort of bearing structure by Bommer. The 4342 specifically is a reference to the fact that it's for Pease doors with this 5/8 radius, with these unusually located holes, and the fact that the hinge is actually just a little bit wider than 4-inch. All of those things conspire to make it LB4342. The 400 is a reference to the next part of the part number is a reference to the size. That means it's 4-inch tall and 4-inch wide, but again, it's marginally wider than 4-inch. The -600 means two things. It means that it's steel-based and that it's prime coat finish. You can order this hinge in different finishes: your brasses, your bronzes, your chromes, black, zinc, etc. That would just, the 600 part of the part number would change. Now, maybe you're not sure if you have Pease. The fact of the matter is you can click below this video to the document called Template and review everything important that is dimensionally there about the hinge, so that you can determine if your existing screw hole locations is exactly correct for this. This is a full mortise hinge. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaves there that it's meant to be mortised. The leaves are meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame. We do not sell any sort of standard non-spring-loaded hinge for this. And people have asked if we do for these specialty door types, and we don't. I have found that clients report difficulty in finding non-spring-loaded hinges, and my answer has always been, I wish that I could help. I would contact the manufacturer of the door and ask, but if all else fails, you can always order another spring hinge or whatever is required so that the axis of pivoting would be compatible with your mixture of non-spring hinge and spring hinges. Now, with other hinges by Bommer that are 4x4 and they're LB series, I wouldn't worry about that. But this hinge being 5/64, which is incredibly negligible, wider than 4-inch, I'm sure that it would work. But at the same time, I'm saying that it wouldn't work. It's not the same size, and therefore should not be compatible. Could you make it work? Yes, you probably could. But the fact of the matter is, my technical answer is that it's not compatible. The leaf thickness on this is typical for residential weight. It's 96 thousandths thick, and that is called out on the link to the template. But this is a spring hinge, and let's move on to that. Assuming that you're dealing with doors up to 3 foot by 7 foot only, you're going to have 2 spring hinges recommended if you have an 85-pound door. And you'd want to install those at the top and middle, and 3 spring hinges if you have a door up to 110 pounds. I am a fan of all spring hinges, not for the obvious reason, but for this reason. I've installed these, I've managed these, I've reset them, I've calibrated them through different seasons, and I have found a significantly greater level of success and predictability, reliability out of the door when you've got more springs sharing the power, sharing the workload, I should say, of getting the door closed. A spring hinge, and it's not my suggested method of closing a door. I think a door should be hydraulically controlled with a surface closer or some other a floor closer or overhead closer. The fact of the matter is spring hinges fill a need in the marketplace. But a spring is kind of inefficient at doing the job in such a way that you can control the door. Springs don't control the door like hydraulic closers do. This will help you get the door closed. I liken these to a tugboat. They don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight when you have enough spring power on reserve. When you get the door open, that door has got to come from basically a negative sort of inertia to stop, then to get going back started again, overcoming, air pressure, conditions in the building, overcoming the weight of the door, overcoming the friction of the latch bolt, hitting the strike plate. You need to be able to have that door predictably close all the time so that it not only closes but latches. A lot of time people are using spring hinges when it's a fire-rated door, and that's an instance that you must have it self-latching. It's required by code. And I have simply found a greater level of success when I've got more spring hinges sharing that job. I have more stored energy left in the spring at the critical last few degree of the closing cycle, that I prefer more spring hinges. Also, the change of seasons, you'll have all the doors and windows closed in a 3-flat condo building, let's say, and the spring hinge can be adjusted to work more predictably. But then summer is there and you've got all the windows open, and that door can come and crash through, and that's going to be pretty predictable as well. So you'll readjust it. When you've got less springs, you've got less ability to kind of work in that large area of trying to get the door to work properly all the time in those changing conditions, which, air pressure conditions changing in a building is kind of an unfair fight for a spring hinge because it doesn't know. Not that a hydraulic closer does, but the fact of the matter is a hydraulic closer is operating on a different principle to close the door. Now, let's move on to setting the hinge. About those screws, screw holes, you're going to get screws in a complementary finish. This hinge is going to come with all wood and all machine screws, so you'll be covered there. Now, your order will certainly come with a tension rod. That's that black steel rod that you see there. It will also come with a tension pin. That's right there. This order happens to have 2 hinges on it, so there are 2 tension pins. You can see there. Now, how to adjust it. Install the hinge with the tension collar pointed up in this example, okay? When you have the hinge installed with the tension collar up, you can insert the tension rod into one of the holes in the tension collar and turn it clockwise. And as you do that, you reveal new additional holes. And it's into one of those holes that you'll insert the tension pin, thereby setting the tension. Exposing not more than 3 holes is what you want to have, otherwise you might break the spring. That doesn't really happen often, but it can, or can deform the spring if you have far too much tension set. Non-handed for left hand or for right hand doors, so no problem with that. And a very good quality item. The last thing I'd like to point out to you, you can see that there is the Bommer logo. Right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. Any questions on the Bommer number LB4342-400-600? Spring hinge for P's, manufactured doors, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.